Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. Robert Kiyosaki, he has been on the program often. He's one of my favorite guests, someone I've now been talking to for a long time. Over 10 years he's been on the show, on and off, and the more I can get him on, the better, because there's very few people out there making the American dream more real for individuals than Robert Kiyosaki, author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a mega bestseller, one of the best-selling business books and financial books of all time. How are you, Robert?
I'm doing great. And you, Kevin?
Always good to talk to you, my friend. Talk to me a little bit about, first of all, you've got a new book out there called Second Chance, which I think everyone needs that. Talk a little bit about that book and how it's faring out there.
Well, Second Chance, as you know, a lot of people are not good readers, and I put myself in that category. So Second Chance, I decided to tell the story of what's going on globally in the economy in pictures. And I simply just put charts in there from the Fed and all this, so you can look at the pictures, and then you can slit your wrists.
So you recommend do not read with sharp objects in the room.
Well, I got to put yourself on suicide watch after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, it's pretty, picture's worth 1,000 words. So as I said, these are simple. They're not my charts. I just get them off the Internet, and you can look at them. They'll tell you the story of what's really going on versus what you're being told.
Yes, absolutely. And it's a very sobering book. People certainly need to look at it because they need to get a glimpse of the reality of what, an $18 trillion debt looks like, and the fact that the United States debt is now greater than our gross national product. And when countries reach that point, they tend to flatline economically. We need to be aware of these realities.
Well, people have no idea what that means.
Yeah.
Kevin, I'll tell a quick story. I was on this major radio station yesterday talking to your counterpart, and this guy didn't know jack. I mean, I'm going, you got to be kidding me. He's still in the, go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, and invest for the long term in the stock market, get out of debt.
Right.
And when I told him, I said, why would you save money when in 1970, when I graduated from school, I didn't have $1 million, but if I had $1 million, then I could make $150,000 a year on interest. So I could save my way to retirement. Today, that same $1 million will get you a negative 5 basis points. In other words, it's going to cost you $500 to save $1 million.
Right.
And yet people still say save money. So when I talk to this radio guy who influences millions of people, he says, you don't know what you're talking about. He says, saving money is the way to go. I said, just look at the interest rates.
It's unbelievable. It really is.
He said, so what do you recommend? I said, well, I'm not recommending. I just tell you what I do is I use debt. I don't save money. I use debt. Debt is money. Then I quoted Donald Trump. He says, I love debt. And he says, well, that's the end of this conversation.
Wow. Yeah, absolutely. So talk a little bit about, and one of my favorite things about you, there's certain rules that we should continuously break, which is this idea of 40 hours of work every week. In fact, as long as we're working 40 hours, it's impossible to get rich in most cases. It's truly impossible to get rich because you're doing one of the worst mistakes you can make, which is trade time with time for money.
I know. I mean, but, I was listening to some of these politicians, and it's like it's a moral offense to ask somebody to work.
Right. Absolutely.
You have to pay you because you're working. I'm going, well, just be grateful you have a job.
No, I agree with that. I agree with that. But I'm talking about the idea of pursuing rich, the idea of becoming wealthy. You can't do that if you're going to stay on the rat race, as you've well put it, both in a game and in several of your books. If you're going to continually spinning wheels financially. I like what you talk about. Forget about assets, develop means of cash flow. Have several things that generate cash flow as your means of retirement.
Well,
that's a brilliant idea.
Of an asset. Asset puts money in your pocket. Liability takes money from your pocket.
Yeah.
So most people spend a lifetime generating liabilities.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And we're now getting very close. And several countries in Europe are actually charging an extra fee in order to save money. You're literally paying overtly to save money. It's not this hidden mix. It's a saving money fee. We're not that far away from it in this country.
No, but that's what I was talking about. When in 1970, I could make $150K off of $1 million, and today it's going to cost me negative 5 basis points or $500 to save $1 million.
Yeah.
So why would you save money?
I've never asked you.
That's what I talked to that radio guy about, and his mind slipped gears. You see, but I'm getting 5% interest. I said, not in America.
Yeah, where do you have it? In a Swiss bank account? And I'm not sure you can do that there unless you have a huge amount of money in that account.
You can't save your way to retirement today. That's the problem, because they're printing it faster than you can save it.
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. It's the most elaborate form and deceptive form of taxation out there.
Yep.
Yeah, so I've always been wanted to ask, I'm a fan also, not only a huge fan of yours, I'm kind of a groupie, but I also really like the work of Tim Ferriss, 4-Hour Work Week, and the idea of narrowing what you're doing, creating your systems to replace yourself, and you start duplicating that, you can easily be making 6 digits a month in a reasonable time frame. Are you familiar with Tim's work? What's your thoughts about him?
Well, I don't know about him, but I work 24/7.
Right.
But the difference is, I love what I do. I am fascinated by what I do. I'm constantly studying, reading, learning. So I don't mind. I love what I do. So anybody who says I want to work less, they probably don't like what they do. Mm-hmm. But I think what Tim is saying is work smarter. Well, that's good advice. Not easy to do, but anyway.
Yeah, the biggest problem seemed to me almost to be emotional and psychological. It certainly aren't technological or systems, because we got plenty of both. To me, it's very easy to work mean and lean in a way we never have historically. People seem to have a hard time doing that, I think, mainly because of what goes on in their heads.
It could be. I don't. I buy assets. Like last year, I invested $300 million in real estate. Debt.
Wow.
That's how you get rich. You use debt to get rich. So that leaves me time to do my work.
Yeah, you're real passion, and you're really an evangelist at what you do, which I think is extraordinary. So it looks like it looks fairly obvious now, unless something bizarre happens, which this has been the most bizarre election cycle of my adult life, that Donald Trump will be the nominee of the Republican Party. I know you have some thoughts about why this phenomenon happened. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, first of all, Donald Trump and I wrote 2 books together before he ran for president.
Yep.
And I'm not Republican or not Democrat, and I am going to vote for the man. Given the context of the world economy we're in, I don't necessarily care for the way he says it, but what he says I agree with. We're very weak in our negotiations internationally, and that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
So, but I think we're going down. I wrote a book called Rich Dad's Prophecy in 2002. Mm-hmm. And I said we're going to go down in 2016. So I was 14 years out, plus or minus 3 years. But I'm afraid we're going to go down. So I don't know why he wants to be president of the Titanic.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting thought.
And I do recall. Of mine. I'm still going to vote for him. But he's just like saying, "Hey, Kevin, why don't you run for president of the Titanic?" Oh yeah, I think I will.
I'll pass on that opportunity. Thank you people have asked me for years, are you going to run for office or when are you going to run for office? And I'm like, I think I'm running from office, not for office. Though you got to compromise so much, you got to give up so much, and you get so little back in return. And frankly, government is made up of, it's really whichever level of government you're talking about, you're dealing with parliaments of whores. And so it's a very difficult process. I think I prefer pursuing the American dream rather than joining others and destroying it.
Well, that's why I think Trump is the best man for the job. Is he's already put, let's say he is elected president, he's already put the world on notice. He's going to shake it up.
Yeah, no question about it. Things will be different under a Trump administration. It'll be interesting to see how that pans out. So with about a minute left, I really want to give you an opportunity to give your message to the American people. What should they be thinking about here in 2016? And from a systemic approach, looking at the numbers out there, everything you predicted in 2002 is exactly the way it is today. It is so ripe for complete destruction economically. It's unbelievable. I'd like you to leave, though, with some positive thoughts for the listener out there.
Well, I think I'm hoping hate to say this, but crashes are when you get rich. So I don't know what people are afraid of a crash for. In 2008, when that baby came down, I was buying like crazy from 2009 to 2012. And I thought I died and went to heaven. Unfortunately, most people were getting wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think you said it best when we were talking before we got on the air, is that making those changes are more than mentally, it's emotionally.
Yeah.
I mean, once you realize that savings are going to be depleted, Social Security is gone, the stock market will probably come and wipe out a whole bunch more people just when they need it most. That's emotional. That's emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is 3 times more powerful than mental intelligence. So fear is going to paralyze most people. So I'd be prepared for the crash today and get your brain thinking so you know what to do when it happens.
Guess it's going to happen. Get ready. I think you're an awesome evangelist for free enterprise in the American dream. I'm grateful that we get to have access to you. And anyone who hasn't read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant, or any of your other books, you need to get on it. That's my view.
Well, read Second Chance because I think you'll get the picture.
Second Chance is awesome.
It's pictures, and you can talk to your kids and family and your brother-in-law with pictures.
Yeah, but don't read it as a bedtime story to your kids.
Yeah, I can put you on suicide watch.
Thanks, Robert Kiyosaki. Appreciate you, sir.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, when we come back, we're going to have much more for you. I do want to remind you, best content here shows up over there at usdailyreview.com, including this interview.